Hello, and welcome back to Team 39th Rhapsody. I'm your host, Tanishi, and today we will be going over my Almajestar Astroea Unica deck profile. Unica is a new Dark Stays deck coming straight out of set 9. She is really fun. She is a bit high rolly, but she is always the waifu. So let's get into it. We, of course, will start off with the red one. We start on Almajestar Astroea, and she says, when this unit is rolled upon, if you want second, draw a card. The reason we play her over the crit starter is because in most scenarios, your mulligan should have ideally 2 to 3, but likely 1 to 2 crit triggers in it, and that is plenty. Second, we have Almajestar Astroea. So this unit says, when rolled upon by Almajestar Astroea, soul charge 2, and if a crit trigger was soul charge, draw a card. In testing, I rarely hit this, but as you play 8 crit in a 46 to 41 card deck, it's pretty possible. It's just you won't always hit this skill. However, we do appreciate the soul charge. And then, due to Tudan's ability, later in the game, she will be on rearguard and has the skill act rearguard once per turn. If your opponent's vanguard is grade 3 or greater, bind a trigger unit from your soul, and this unit gets plus 10k until the end of the turn. Of course, you want to keep trigger units for Astro Unica's skill. You also want to keep in mind that if you have only a certain number of triggers and still have enough soul charge, this 10k will be more than the 5k. So please keep in mind when to use this skill and when not to. Next up, our grade 2, Almajestar Astroea, says that when this unit is rolled upon by a unit with Astroea in its card name, choose an Almajestar Astroea from your soul and call this and that card to rear. So this allows you 2 free attackers, and also has her second skill, act once per turn. If you're Vanguard with Almajestar and its card name, counterblast 1, choose 2 trigger units from your drop, put them into your soul, and this unit gets plus 5k into the end of turn. What this does is it allows you to be flexible with guarding and discarding your crit triggers in the early game, and then allowing you to put them back into your soul. Finally, we have the main boss monster. When this trigger unit is soul blasted for a cost of this unit's ability, choose one of your units and it gets plus 5k until the end of the turn. As her skill is, when this unit attacks the vanguard, soul blast 3, bind all crit triggers, soul blast for this cost, and perform all the following abilities according to the number of triggers in your bind zone. 1 or more cards, choose one of your opponent's rear guards and retire it. 2 or more cards, this unit gets plus 1 crit until the end of battle. 3 or more cards, this unit gets plus 1 drive until the end of battle. So if you have 3, you get all of the effects. As you are soul blasting 3, this is your main way of binding your crit triggers for the cost, and also for each trigger bound, allows you to activate her first skill 3 times, giving a total of plus 15k somewhere to your field. It does also not have to be the same unit, as this effect will activate 3 times. So, Unica is actually surprisingly decent, as she can retire one of your rears, giving her some retire power, getting a crit, making her a decently pressure vanguard, and having triple drive, allowing you to hit more triggers and have higher pressure on your opponent. She is a really fun card, and when she gets rolling, will hit your opponent pretty hard. However, to get to that point, you need to get those 3 crits in your bind zone. Starting off with our grade 3s, we of course play 3 Astro Unica, as, similar to some other newer decks this format, you want to kill your opponent fast. She is not restricted to turn 4, so that means if you hit the requirement of 3 crits on your first grade 3 turn, that's already good pressure on your opponent, and then having the Persona ride next turn pressures them even more. Due to what I just said, this means we play 1 of the set 8 Gratias Gordeo. This is a normal order card that says play the severe grade 3 Vanguard with Persona Ride, and you did not Persona Ride this turn. or ride this turn, sorry. This allows you to activate Persona Ride. So you draw a card and all your front units get plus 10k. This is simply just a 4th Persona Ride for the deck, as you want to be Persona Riding as much as possible to put as much pressure on your opponent as possible. It's good to play this card. Moving on to our grade 2s, we have 4 Kit's Peak Griffin. Kit's Peak is a new card that says, when this unit is placed on rearguard circle, if you have a Vanguard with Almajestar in its card name, choose 2 trigger units from the drop and put them to soul. As it requires an Almajestar, you can do this on your grade 2 turn. However, in the most likeliness, I wouldn't recommend it unless you want to early rush, which you should be doing with this card. Then continuous rearguarded guardian circle. If your bind zone has a crit trigger, this unit gets plus 5k power and plus 5k shield, even on your opponent's turn. This allows Kit's Peak to be a wonderfully 15k attacker, but even more wonderfully 10k guard. Along with having the free version of Almajestar Astroea skill, Kit's Peak is a great card to play in Unica. Next up, we have likely one of the most powerful cards that have been generically printed for Dark States. We have Queen Sweep Dragon. So, once per turn, if you Persona Road this turn, counterblast 1, choose up to a total of 3 of you or your opponent's rearguards, and you and your opponent put the chosen rearguards into your own souls. This unit will then get plus 5k until the end of turn for each card chosen by this effect. Although it is active only on Persona Ride turns, which is why, of course, we want to Persona Ride as much as possible, as you do not use much CB in current Unica, this is a free removal of 3. This is a removal and not a retire, meaning that if your opponent is Eva per se, you can put their obfuscates in the soul. While it only slows them down a tiny bit, it is still very annoying. Then he even gets power for this. So, say your opponent doesn't have 3, you can even put your own rearguards into your soul to maintain the 15k power, or if it's not necessary, just do 5 or 10. Queen Sweep is a wonderfully generic card, and I would recommend picking him up sooner than later, as last time I checked, he is only $8 right now, which, compared to Japan's prices, is pretty good. So, if you plan on using him, or you're a Dark States player, I would recommend picking him up. Next up, we have 4 Byakuran Manticore. Manticore's skill is simple. During your turn, if your bind zone has 2 or more trigger units, this unit gets plus 10k. I know a lot of people are iffy on this card, as it's not much but a 20k attacker. However, in current Unica, we don't have much, so 20k is pretty good. 20k on Persona Ride becomes 30k, with Unica's skill can become 45k, could become 40k, could become 35k. If you have Queen Sweep in the other column, that's already 35k, you're likely boosting him. Byakuren hits those big numbers simply off his plus 10k skill. So, we play 4. In the future, I'm not sure how much we'll play a Manticore, but as he is only a common, there's no harm in picking him up and playing him right now. Next up, we play 2 more of the Almajestar Astroea. This is because of her second skill, which is simply counterblast 1, choose 2 trigger units and drop, put them to your soul and get plus 5k. As we are running 4 Kit's Peak, we want to run simply a few more of Astroea, just to make sure that we can get the full benefit of her simple skill of counterblasting 1 and putting 2 to soul. Plus, she becomes a 15k attacker if she does so, which is not bad at all. We obviously do not play any of the grade 3 Chimera with the similar skill, and this is because although he becomes an 18k attacker, we already have Byakuren at 20k, Kit's Peak, and her doing the same thing, but on 15k, however having that 5k shield, which really makes a big difference when playing Unica. Next up, we run 4 of, yes, another card from set 1, Gungunram. Gungunram is an amazing card for this deck. He is simple. When this unit is placed on rear, soul charge 1, and then act once per turn, soul blast 3 to draw a card. This card's amazing, as he not only allows you to early rush with him, as you can simply calm down, get the soul charge, and then rush fast, but he also allows you to make sense of the soul that is not triggers. Unica, as you could see, is a deck that wants to be soul blasting triggers. However, it is also a deck that wants to be hitting triggers. So, since we run so many soul charges, it is likely that you will have more than enough soul charge. For this reason, Gungunram Soul Blast 3 to draw a card is very beneficial, as it allows Unica to keep its hand size up while hitting your opponent fast. So, he is probably one of the most must-have cards in this deck, and I would highly recommend him. Next up, we play 4 of the new item Copernicus. This unit says, when this unit boosts, if you have Vanguard with Almajestar in its card name, meaning you don't have to be on Unica, you can be on the grade 1 or grade 2, choose up to 1 trigger unit from your hand or drop and put it into your soul. If you put from your hand, draw a card. This not only allows you to guarantee you can get a crit trigger not only from drop but from hand into your soul, is nice. It also allows you to recycle non-crit triggers that are triggers, as you can swing, use Unica first, swing, and then boost by him using his skill second to return one of the triggers that you soul charged into the soul. It also allows you to go equal if you put from your hand, which is really nice. Due to this, we run 4. Finally, we of course play the 3 effect PG and the 1 elementary Sanctitude. Sanctitude will always be a staple, along with the effect PGs. So, if you can pick up a Sanctitude, I highly recommend it. If not, 4 effect PGs is totally fine. For Unica, we of course play 8 crit. You want to see as many crits as possible. 3 for your skill, the rest to attack your opponent with. Due to this, we play 8, and unfortunately, I do recommend playing the effect crits, as you can put them into soul when they boost your rearguard from field. Of course, crits, you want to have 1 to 2 to 3, I would recommend 2, in your hand at the start of the game, as you can use them to early guard and then put them back with Turandina or Kid's Peak. We also play 3 effect draws and 1 Dark States OT. Unica needs draws, as hand is really important in Unica, since you likely won't get much of it, and being a 10k guard is very nice. Then we play the Dark States OT, as although Unica is already plenty scary, it just makes her that much scarier. To round it off, we of course play 4 heals. Thank you for tuning in to my Unica deck profile. As much as Unica can suck sometimes due to how high rolly it is, when it high rolls, it is such a fun deck. You may have to think a bit about your plays and what you do, but Unica can output some very high power, and if you get the 3 crit requirement, can hurt your opponent pretty badly. So, I hope you enjoyed, and if you have any comments or questions, please leave them below. I will see you later.